In a small town of Ahaba, a group of friends has grown up together. From their secondary school days to their university years, they had shared laughter, tears, and countless memories. However, after graduation, life took a harsh turn. The friends, who had once dreamed of changing the world, found themselves struggling to make ends meet. They had applied to countless jobs, but none had yielded a positive response. The town, once full of promise and opportunity, had become a desolate landscape of unemployment and desperation. One of the friends, a tall and charismatic young man named Tijani, had grown tired of the endless rejection. He had always been the optimistic out of the group, but the harsh realities of their situation had taken its toll. Tijani made the difficult decision to leave Ahava in search of greener pastures. Months went by and the friends heard nothing from Tijani. They assumed he was doing well, but they had no idea what he was going through. Tijani had traveled to a distant city where he had become embroiled in a mysterious and sinister world. A world that promised wealth and power, but at a steep price. Back in Ahaba, the friends were struggling to survive. One of them, a quiet and reserved young man named Femi, was facing a particular difficult time. His mother, who had always been his rock, was battling a severe case of asthma. The medication was expensive and Femi's family couldn't afford it. As Femi's mother lay in bed, gasping for air, Femi felt helpless. He had tried everything to raise the money, but it seemed like an impossible task. That was when he remembered Tijani, his friend who had left Ahaba months ago. Femi had heard rumors that Tijani was doing well, that he had found a way to make a lot of money. Femi decided to reach out to Tijani, hoping that he could help him save his mother's life. Femi sent a message to Tijani, hoping against hope that his friend would respond. Days turned into weeks and Femi heard nothing. He had almost given up when he received a call from an unknown number. Femi, it's Tijani, the voice on the other side said. I heard about your mother. I am so sorry. Femi's eyes swelled up with tears as he explained his mother's condition to Tijani. Tijani listened attentively and when Femi finished speaking, he said, I can help you, Femi, but you have to be careful. The way I make my money is not conventional. Femi's curiosity was piqued. What do you mean? He asked. I'll tell you when you come to see me, Tijani replied, but he warned Femi. Once you know, there is no going back. Femi hesitated for a moment. He had always known Tijani to be a good person, but there was something in his voice that sent a shiver down his spine. Still, he had to try. For his mother's sake, he had to take the risk. Okay, Tijani, Femi said finally, I'll come to see you. Tijani gave Femi an address and they agreed to meet the following day. Femi spent the rest of the day in daze wondering what Tijani was involved in and whether he was making a terrible mistake. The next day, Femi made his way to the address Tijani had given him. It was a luxurious mansion on the outskirts of town, surrounded by high walls and security cameras. Femi felt a sense of unease as he approached the gate, but he steeled himself and rang the bell. The gate swung open and a burly man in a suit ushered Femi into the mansion. Femi's eyes widened as he took in the opulent decoration and lavish furnishing. He had never seen anything like it before. Tijani greeted Femi warmly and led him to a private room deep within the mansion. The room was dimly lit and the air was thick and the scent of incense. Femi, I know you're desperate for money, Tijani said, his voice low and serious, but I have to warn you. What I'm about to show you is not for the faint of heart. Are you sure you're ready for this? Femi hesitated, feeling a sense of trepidation, but he thought of his mother lying in bed struggling to breathe. He nodded and Tijani led him deeper into the mansion to a secret room that few people knew existed. As they entered the room, Femi saw a group of people gathered around a large ornate box. They were all dressed in white robes, and their eyes seemed to gleam with an outlawy intensity. Tijani took Femi's arm and led him closer to the box. "This is the source of my wealth," he whispered, "but it comes at a terrible cost. Are you prepared to pay the price?" Femi felt a chill run down his spine and he gazed in the box. He had no idea what was inside, but he knew he was taking a risk by being there. He looked at Tijani and saw that his friend's eyes were filled with a mixture of warning and temptation. "What's inside the box?" Femi asked. His voice barely took a whisper. Femi's heart was racing as he gazed in the box. He had a feeling that he was about to uncover a dark secret, something that would affect his life forever. Tijani nodded to one of the robed figures, who stepped forward and opened the box. A puff of smoke emerged and Femi coughed as he felt a strange, pungent odor fill the air. As the smoke cleared, Femi saw a figure sitting inside the box. It was a woman, extremely fat, with large breasts that seemed to sag under their own weight. Wheat appeared to be growing out of her breasts, adding to her grotesque appearance. Her eyes were open, unblinking, and filled with a look of pure terror. Her face was twisted in a grin, and her skin was sleek and swarthy. Femi felt a wave of resolution wash over him as he gazed at the woman. She looked like something out of a nightmare, a monstrous creature from a dark and twisted world. Tijani stepped forward, a look of reverence on his face. "This is Arachne," he said, his voice low and respectful. "She is the source of our power, the key to our wealth and success." Femi was horrified. "What do you mean?" he demanded. "How can this creature be the source of your wealth and power?" Tijani smiled, his eyes glinting with a sinister light. "Arachne is not just an ordinary woman," she said. "She is a vessel, a conduit for dark and ancient power, and we have learned to harness those powers, to use them to our own gain." Femi felt a chill run down his spine, and he realized the true nature of Tijani's wealth. He had always suspected that something was not quite right, but he had never imagined anything like this. What do you want from me?" Femi asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Tijani's smile grew wider. "We want you to join us," he said. "We want you to become a part of our circle, to share in our power and our wealth." Femi's mind was reeling as he tried to process what Tijani was asking of him. He had always thought of Tijani as a friend, but now he wasn't so sure. "What do I have to do?" Femi asked, his voice barely about a whisper. Tijani's smile grew even wider. "You have to suckle from Arachne's breast," he said, his voice dripping with an oddly enthusiasm. "It's the only way to tap into her power, to become a part of her circle." Femi felt a wave of resolution wash over him as he gazed at Arachne's breast. It was a disgusting, thirsting mass, covered in open sores and dripping with a foul-smelling discharge. Maggots crawled out of the wounds, their tiny bodies wriggling in the dim light. The air was thick, and the stench of rot and decay, and Femi's stomach churned with nausea. "How can you expect me to do this?" Femi asked, his voice shaking with disgust. It's monstrous." Tijani's mind never wavered. "This is Africa, my friend," he said. "This is a heart of darkness, where the old gods still whisper in the wind. This is where the true power lies, and this is what you must do to tap into it." With a sense of resignation, Femi reached out and touched Arachne's breast. The maggot crawled out of the wound into his fingers, and he felt a wave of revulsion wash over him, but he steeled himself, took a deep breath, and began to suckle from the festering mass. Femi's eyes were fixed on Arachne, his mind reeling with the implication of what Tijani had just told him. He wouldn't believe that his friend was involved in something so dark and sinister. Tijani began to explain the ritual that he has to perform in order to harness Arachne's power. Femi listened, his heart sinking with each passing moment. The ritual, Tijani explained, involved sucking the milk from Arachne's breast. The milk, he exclaimed, contained the dark energy that would grant them wealth and power. Femi felt a wave of nausea wash over him as he listened to Tijani's words. He couldn't believe that his friend was asking him to participate in such a disgusting and depressing ritual. But as he looked at Arachne, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The woman's eyes, which had seemed lifeless and empty just moments before, were now fixed intently on him. And in those eyes, Femi saw a glimmer of sparkle of evil that seemed to be growing by the second. Femi felt a chill run down his spine as he gazed into Arachne's eyes. He couldn't believe that he was being asked to participate in a ritual that involved this. Femi felt a chill. Then he shook his head, trying to clear the cobwebs. He couldn't believe that Tijani was asking him to do this. But as he looked at Arachne, he saw something that made his eyes heart skip a beat. The woman's breasts seemed to be moving. They were twitching and convulsing, as if something was alive inside them. Femi felt a wave of horror wash over him as he realized that he was being asked to suckle from those breasts. "No," he said, his voice shaking with authority. "I wouldn't do it." Tijani's face fell and he looked at Femi with a mixture of disappointment and anger. "You fool," he spat. "You don't know what you're rejecting. This is the key to our success and secret to our power and wealth." Femi knew that he had already seen too much. He had seen Arachne's face and he knew that he was supposed to be dead by now. The fact that he was still alive was a miracle, and he knew he couldn't push his luck any further. With a heavy heart, Femi agreed to participate in the ritual. Tijani's face lit up with a sinister grin, and he led Femi to Arachne's side. As Femi looked at Arachne's breast, he felt a wave of resolution wash over him. They were huge and swollen, with weeds growing out of them like some kind of twisted parody of nature. The air around him was thick and the stench of rot and decay, and Femi's stomach churned with nausea. Tijani geared to Arachne's breast, his eye glitching with malevolence. "Suckle from her," he said, his voice low and menacing, "and you will be granted wealth and power beyond your wildest dream." Femi hesitated, his eye fixed on the maggot, wriggling in the folds of Arachne's breast. The smell was overpowering. But with a sense of recognition, Femi finally leaned forward and suckled from Arachne's breast. The milk was thick and chunky, with a stinking smell that made Femi's stomach churn. He could feel the maggots rising in the milk, and he knew that he was consuming something truly evil. As he suckled, Femi felt a strange tingling sensation in his fingers and toes. It was as if his body was being filled with a dark, pulsing energy that seemed to be growing in power by the second. When he finally pulled away from Arachne's breast, Femi felt a bit changed. He felt like he has been transformed into some fundamental way, like he was crossed a threshold into a dark and sinister world. Tijani grinned. "You have taken the first step. Now you must follow instructions that we will give you." Tijani handed Femi a small ornament statue. "Keep this in a secret room," he said, "a room that no one else knows about. Every day open the door to this room and you will find it filled with wealth and riches beyond your wildest dream." Femi took the statue, feeling a sense of hope. He knew that he had made a pact with a dark force and he wasn't sure if he could ever be able to escape. As he left the ritual chamber, Femi couldn't shake the feeling that his life would never be the same again. As he walked, Femi noticed that the air around him seemed to be changed with an electric tension. He could feel the hairs in his back of his head standing on end, and his skin seemed to be tingling with anticipation. Suddenly, Femi heard a faint whispering in his ear. It was a soft, raspy voice that seemed to be coming from all around him. "You have taken the first step," the voice whispered. "Now you must follow the instruction that will give you." Femi spun around, trying to see who was speaking to him, but there was no one there. The voice seemed to be coming from inside his own head. Shaking, Femi continued on his way. He knew that he had to find a way to make sense of what was happening to him. He had to understand the nature of the dark power that he has unleashed inside of him. As he walked away from the gathering, Tijani approached him with a small, intricate card box in his hand. "This is for you, Femi," he said, his voice low and mysterious. We have come to the end of this first part. If you are eager to know how the story ends, please don't forget to turn on your bell button to get the next upload. You are highly welcome if this is your first time. For my returning subscribers, a big thank you.